Hi, I'm Anita, and this is Twisted Wonderland Season 1, Game versus Anime, What Changed? So something to keep in mind in general when going through this list. So in the game, you get the prelude and you get book 1, where in the anime, they combined the prelude and book 1. So the first thing, if you're new to Twisted Wonderland, just to be crystal clear, so in the game, unlike the anime, we don't get the scene with you at all. One of the big major differences between the game and the anime, so in the game, you don't play as you. In the anime, you play as you. So the default name you get when you first play the game and they ask who you want to be called is you. It's purposely a pun. You're meant to play as you in Twisted Wonderland. So I'm sure for the anime, they decided to have a protagonist because it would be really hard, I think, to make a show to not have a protagonist. But in the game, it's actually very fun and natural. I highly suggest playing the game if you haven't. It is super fun. So the next one is, so actually Grimm shows up the exact same time as you does in the game. Where in the anime, he doesn't show up at the exact same time as you does. In the anime, though, he shows up after you tells everyone he can't use magic. He smashes his way through a window and volunteers to take Yu's spot since Yu can't use magic and Grimm can. All right, the next thing is, so also in the game, not only does Grimm show up exactly when Yu shows up, but also he chases Yu down for Yu's uniform. He wants the uniform so he can get into the school. And then the next thing is Yu meets Crowley before meeting anybody else. Actually meets Crowley in the library. Grimm chases Yu down to try to get Yu's uniform. And that's when you run into Crowley, is in the library. So another thing that's different in the game versus the anime is, so in the game, you're presented to the mirror in front of everyone. Crowley takes you there and presents you to the mirror in front of everyone. And then the mirror tells everyone there that you can't use magic. Well, in the anime, the mirror just tells you, Trey, and Cater, and Riddle, and Crowley that you can't use magic. On to the next one. The next one is, so Yu is introduced to only the house wardens at first in the game, not all of the characters. In the anime, well, I guess Yu isn't necessarily introduced to everyone, but everyone is shown in the same room. But in the game, we actually don't get to see right off the bat, like in the anime, Deuce and Ace and Jack and Ethel and all of the other characters. We actually meet them a lot slower in the story in the game than we do in the anime. All right, the other thing that changed is, so in the game, actually right off the bat, we actually get to hear more about Horton. Everyone asks where he is, and you learn that everyone's kind of scared of him, kind of thing, where it's later in the anime. Another difference in the game versus the anime is, so Crowley actually tries to look up in the library where Yu is from. All right, the next thing, so Yu's first night actually in Ramshackle, it actually starts to rain. Poor Yu can't get a break. Actually, scratch that a bit. Yu gets a little bit of luck, so even if it doesn't seem like it at the time. So actually, in the game versus the anime, Grimm gets to stay with you the first night. The ghosts actually freak you and Grimm out, and you get in a fight with the ghosts. And then they tell Crowley that ghosts are haunting the place. And so then Crowley wants to see you and Grimm's fighting skills. And so you and Grimm do show their fighting skills. They show that they can work as a team. And Crowley is very intrigued by this. And so he decides to let Grimm stay because you would appreciate Grimm staying around to help you fight off the ghosts. And also, too, you want to really help Grimm try to get into the school. So in the game, Grimm gets to stay with you in Ramshackle the first night. All right, also another difference is, so in the game versus the anime, you and Grimm become janitors at the same time. In the show, Grimm doesn't become a janitor at all. So another difference is in the game, we first meet Ace, not Deuce, where in the show, we meet Ace and Deuce at the same time. Also, another key difference from the game versus the show is, so in the game, after Ace and Deuce burn the statue, Crowley threatens to expel everyone, but decides to give a warning and says, as a punishment, Grimm and Ace and you need to wash 100 windows. And then another key difference is so then we meet Deuce while chasing Ace, who tries to shrink his responsibilities to help bang out 100 windows. After Deuce, you, and Grimm chase down Ace and catch him, then Grimm tries to ditch his responsibilities of banging out 100 windows. So then everyone starts chasing Grimm down, and to escape, Grimm climbs a chandelier where Ace, trying to help, launches Ace in the air to get Grimm down from the chandelier, but it breaks the chandelier, and then Crowley expels everyone. All right, another difference is, so when everyone goes to the mines, Ace, Deuce, Grimm, and you, they actually run into ghosts, and obviously have to not get caught by ghosts, where in the show, they do not run into ghosts at all. Also, another key difference from the game versus the show. So in the game, Deuce just runs straight in and tries to take the monster on, and of course, gets creamed. Then Ace and then Grimm also try to fight the monster and get creamed. And then everyone flees. And then we get the scene where Deuce tells Ace off and turns into a little punk again. Where in the anime, when they find out the monster is guarding a mage stone, in the anime, Deuce tells Ace off and then goes and attacks the monster. Another big difference between the game and the anime is, so in the game, Riddle does not show up to defeat the monster. He doesn't actually even show up at all, where in the anime, he does. So another big difference is, so in the game versus the anime, so Ace and Deuce, Grimm and you go to Crowley's office together to give Crowley the mage stone. Another big difference between the game and the show is, so Grimm actually ends up thinking class is boring and tries to run away. Ace and Deuce capture Grimm and bring him back to school. Another difference between the game versus the show. So in the game, you, Grimm, and Ace and Deuce are sitting together, and then Cater and Trey kind of invite themselves to sit by everyone. Where in the show, Cater invites everyone to sit by him and Trey. Another big difference is, so in the game versus the anime, is that in the game, duplicate Cater goes to get Ace and Deuce for the unbirthday party. Another difference between the game and the anime is, so you, Grimm, Deuce, and Ace go to find Trey in the library. Trey wasn't actually waiting around in the library hoping for you, Grimm, Deuce, and Ace to show up. Where in the anime, Trey is waiting around in the library hoping for everyone to show up. So another difference is, so in the game, it's you, Grimm, Ace, and Deuce who start taking initiative to try to get Riddle out of his Overblot state. Then Trey joins, and then Cater. So another difference is in the game versus the anime. So in the game, at the end, when some people miss some roses, Riddle stops everything and gets everyone to finish painting the roses. Also, another key difference. So in the video game versus the anime, so when Chinyan, and I really hope I'm pronouncing his name right, shows up for the very unmerry birthday, the students find out or remember that he is a student of the Royal Sword Academy and start to run him out of the school, or at least try. I suspect they probably aren't going to succeed very well. Also, another big difference between the game versus the anime is that at the end of the birthday party, we find out that Cater actually doesn't really like sweets. So comment below if I missed anything. I think that would be fun to read and to see. I hope I caught everything. I probably didn't. The game is pretty big, actually. The anime actually shortened it quite a bit. I thought they did a pretty good job at summing up the game pretty good for how much material they had to go through to decide what ended up in the show versus what's in the game already and has been there for a good long while. Because remember also too, they combined the prelude and book 1 into one season, so not too bad, I would say. Thanks so much for joining me today. So if you love content like this, remember to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I really have a hard time figuring out what kind of content you like unless you actually like the videos. So if you like this, give it a like so that tells me what kind of content you would like more of from me. Thanks so much for joining me today. And if you love this, you'll love the next one on screen. This one is a great video for anyone who's new to Twisted Wonderland. If you would like to just get a very bare bones rundown of what Twisted Wonderland is. So if you love this, you'll love that one. See you over there.